Hi, everybody. Fiona Pearman and Kate Bora. And this week we're talking about psychosocial safety and psychosocial risks. And I think the interesting thing here, Kate, is this refers to the whole workplace scenario. It's everything from macro, what's going on at quite a big strategic level, policies, procedures, and workplaces, right through to the minutiae of what employees are experiencing on the day-to-day, and some of the things that can get in the way and undermine self-esteem.
Yeah, I think this has been a really topical area, not just for HR directors. I know lots of organisations are running sessions with leaders. Of course, it's a big thing for boards as well in terms of getting their head around it. And I think the thing to recognise here, and certainly, we'll hold ourselves out and say we're not experts, we're not the legal experts in this space, but it does cross over a lot in our work. Largely because, our work is all about developing self-awareness for individuals and then encouraging them to take action in alignment with who they are, what they want, where they want to go. And I think this talks to some of the conversations we have on a weekly basis with our clients around speaking up, asking what they want, maybe calling out, disrespect, bad behaviour. I think if we circle back to why I guess it's more topical now is whilst the legislation hasn't changed, the definition of psychological injury has. And what we've seen is that definition has expanded. So some of the old things that maybe come up around that can be dismissed as perhaps personality issues or perhaps not good cultural fits are now being included or coming back onto this remit of psychosocial hazards. And because of that, mean that organisations really need to start to dig in. And WorkSafe Australia has some great stuff here in terms of the sorts of things that are now caught in this context of psychological injury.
Yes, I think this is the really interesting piece that organisations, I think we've been focused for some time, we've been aware of the risks and the concerns around, quite big things like, bullying, sexual harassment, those kind of things have had a lot of airplay for a while. But when you look at what Safe Work Australia is talking about here, they're talking about some things that really, initially they might seem less serious or not that important. But what happens over time, and I think this is what is really drawing attention to here, is we're concerned about repeated behaviour and things that actually are making people feel as though they have very little control in their work. So things like, I don't know, or I'm not being included in certain dynamics or email streams that I need in order to do my work. I'm not getting all the information I require. I've got a lack of support, or it doesn't feel as though it's possible to call out things that are causing me harm or feel as though they're difficult. If I've got too much work on my plate, it's difficult to call it out because the expectation is just it keeps coming at me. And what we know is that, maybe once or twice, most people can sort of navigate and get through this, but there's a real piece here about repeated experiences. And when people are having these things over and over again, over time, they started to feel less and less empowered, less and less in control of what's happening in their world. And that really is where we get to this point of what can be identified as psychological injury.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? I mean, we've been on the end of conversations with clients where the trauma, and we don't use that word lightly, the trauma that they have from past experience, quite often with a boss, in terms of how they've been managed, potentially how they've been the conditions with they've exited an organisation, has really impacted how they show up in new organisations and actually supported them through unpacking some of that stuff. And I think it's big. It's a big one for organisations because the stuff that maybe we used to dismiss around, maybe personality clashes, or they're just not getting on, or, the old toughen up, just get your head down, get it done. All of those sorts of things, a lot of just that kind of banter that you might have had potentially as leaders, particularly if you, in your years had to just kind of suck it up a little bit and toughen up and get on and get the job done and do whatever it takes. Many of us came through the era where you did work ridiculously long hours and did whatever it took to get it done. My sense is those days are over.
Yes, and I think this can be the hard adjustment. We talk a lot about self-awareness, for people who are experiencing things and for them to be able to articulate it. But there's also a big piece of self-awareness here for managers and leaders. What is it that potentially I've got a blind spot around this? Because now there is a requirement that as, employers, managers, as directors in organizations, that we're aware of what's going on here. And we start to understand the cumulative impact of some of these behaviors that we may have in the past just swept under the carpet or been prepared to live with because, such and such, they're a great person or they've got a good personality in this regard. Those excuses just won't cut it anymore. And I think this is where it's so important to be having conversations at all levels of organizations so people can expand their awareness of perhaps where their default behaviours are going to get in their own way, are going to be things that could inadvertently create injury in others if we're not really conscious and we're not really aware of them.
The power of self-awareness, right? It's been incredible for us over the last year to just create containers for leaders to be able to dig in a little bit and recognise what's going on for themselves. And certainly, that's what we do in our women in leadership programs. We're going to leave it there. Lots to dig into over the next couple of weeks on this topic. If you've enjoyed today's confidence conversation, we'd love for you to share it with those in your network with whom you feel it might resonate with. And of course, if you want to find out more about our work, head over to our Facebook page. So many videos, lives from years now that you can dig into. And of course, when you're ready to go deeper with your relationship with core confidence, or if you'd like to find out more about the work we do in organisations, visit our website, coreconfidence.com.au.